Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers preview. We're getting ready for a big one. I'm excited for this show. I was excited for the Standard last night. I'm excited for the Steelers preview tonight because I think this is a gigantic game in so many different ways with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But before we get to all that, joining me as always is co-host Bryan Anthony Davis. How you doing, Bryan?
Very good, fellas. Glad to be here. Glad to be breathing. Glad to be a fan of a 3-4 team.
That is the new and improved Bryan Anthony Davis, mind you, with brand new internet. So you might see, you don't see the Periscope. And this close enough. Bryan got new internet. Sounds good. Looks good. Awesome. Dave is still in his study as he's trying to solve the world's problems one book at a time. Dave, how's it going?
One book at a time. One book at a time. It's going.
Get that Timmy Tebow book out there. All right. So, guys, it's a lot of stuff has happened this week. It's been a short week because obviously a Monday night game means that everything is truncated this week. So, what were your thoughts? Let's go around the horn as we typically do to start our show. And something that maybe stood out to you this week that had to do with the black and gold in some way, shape, or form. Bryan, let's start with you.
First of all, I hate Monday Night Football because I hate the broadcast. It's not what I grew up with. This is man shaking fisted cloud because it's not Howard Cosell. It's not Frank Gifford. It's not Dandy Don. It's not even Dan Deerdorf. It's just these. It's terrible. Even the production value.
Booger.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really mind Booger as much. It's just the whole. It just seems very cable access to what I'm used to growing up. So with that being said, it's a far cry from NBC to ESPN. But with that being said, I fell asleep at the end of the game. Just because, with less than after the 2-minute warning, I fell asleep and I woke up. I'm like, oh, they won. I'm like, oh, I got to press send. I have to finish my article. But you know what? I am just so glad that that game is behind us. And we are going to find out exactly who the Pittsburgh Steelers are now. We got a little preview with Mason Rudolph now that he's throwing it down the field. And we keep forgetting that this guy has only started 4 NFL games. So we're watching the maturation happen. And I love the fact that he is maturing and he's looking better and he's taking more risks downfield. And there's a chance, everybody said before, that if they're down by 10 points, 14 points, there's no coming back with this team. But he did lead them back. He had a lot of help from his friends, and that's okay. But Mason Rudolph is proving himself as of being the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback of the future, possibly, and I'm glad to watch it in the early going.
I agree that Monday Night Football sucks. And everything else he said. Dave, you want to chime in on what he just said?
Well, that was my first ever Monday night game in stadium. So Bryan's complaining about falling asleep. I went to bed at 4:30. So it was a little bit later night for me. I'm sure Jeff was getting up to work out probably when I was going to sleep. So
Jeff was working out through the whole game.
He probably was. But I have a whole different perspective on the game because I've only made it through actually rewatching the game 2 drives. So all I have that I'm going off of that was anything good for the Pittsburgh Steelers is what I saw in stadium. So this is the round the horn, right? So I want to bring up something. I wanted to bring up something that I saw in stadium that I don't know if you guys noticed on TV. I talked about it some on Stat Geek, and that is there was one particular personnel grouping that they used a lot. And that was, of course, it wasn't every time that number 72 was reported as eligible, but it was eligible. It was one of those. Yeah. I remember one time he was doing that right in front of us, trying to get the officials' attention. But when he in a certain formation where they would bring in Banner, they would have another tight end, usually Vanette. I'm not saying it was 100% him every time because sometimes it's hard to tell if it was an 8 or a 9 as the other number. And you had Roosevelt Nix and you had James Conner, and your single wide receiver was Johnny Holton. And they ran this formation, and every single time they ran it, you knew what was coming. You knew that it was a run to James Conner where he was going to be following Roosevelt Nix. And they did that. And although they ran the ball well, a lot of those runs were not overly successful runs. The first one of the game was, but not all of them were. And that's because Miami was putting 9 or 10 guys in the box because Johnny Holden hasn't caught a pass all season. And that's who they want to have on the field. You were just saying, we're running the ball, try to stop us. Not only that, from the end zone view where I'm sitting, you could see that every Miami defender was keying on Roosevelt Nix because they knew he was going to take them to the ball. So they were just flowing to wherever Nix moved to first because you could see him easier than Connor. They didn't run any misdirection. They didn't try to throw in a little dump off pass to the tight end. I would have loved if it would have been the Banner. But every single play out of that personnel group was a James Conner run right behind Roosevelt Nix. I want to see that change. I want to see them bring in that personnel group and then hit you with something you're not expecting.
Well, I think that you'll see that this week. I think that in a lot of ways, Randy Fichtner, I don't know if he has the forethought to do this, but he probably looked at it and said, look, if we run Roosevelt Nix in this jumbo package, they're going to see this on film and they're going to key on it and know that when Nix is in the game and Banner reports eligible, they're going to run the ball up the middle. That's when you might see the play action. That's when you might see misdirection. Maybe, just maybe, Randy Fichtner is smart enough to use that Miami game as like a setup game for some big games coming up with the Colts and then the Rams afterwards. Not saying it's a guarantee, but maybe. Brian, what are your thoughts on that situation?
You know what? It could be that. Jeff, I actually agree with your assessment completely. But I'm also thinking, is it are they in the position now when they're doing what we've asked them to do for a long time, would quit trying to fool people and just play your strength and say, hey, we are going to run it at you. We have a very good running back in James Conner. We have our fullback back, and we have an offensive line with 3 Pro Bowlers that we know that can beat you, and we have it together now, and we're just going to run it down your throat and see if you can stop us. So I like what you're saying, Jeff, and I agree with that, and I hope they do that. But I'm wondering if they do have the forethought to do that, because I don't believe in Randy Fichtner. I thought the game plan was much better, and I didn't complain about it this week. I thought they played to the strengths of the team. Now I'm wondering, hey, are they just going to go ahead and ram it down their throat because they know they can?
Well, since Dan Kreider retired, people have been clamoring for the fullback. You got the fullback. And it was successful. And I just hope that Fichtner doesn't, I talked about how he might be using this as a setup game. I hope he doesn't fall back into the Wildcat pattern, which is it worked once. You don't have to try it again because the team's going to be ready for it. And so I think this is kind of what Dave was suggesting earlier is that let's not, if you're going to try it, you have to bring a wrinkle. And that's like the Wildcat, I guess they did technically. They had Jalen Samuels throw the ball. It just was awful. It's just awful.
Meaning throw the ball with his arm up in the air, not just flipping it forward.
Yes.
It's going to the well one too many times and being so predictable. I hate about predictability. It's like when you are feeling special and you dim the lights and put on Lionel Richie one night and it works, and you go to the Lionel Richie well the next night and she knows it's coming and then she stays upstairs, or downstairs. That's the thing. You got to be unpredictable. You gotta put some different music in there. You need to go
little Marvin Gaye, maybe.
Little Marvin Gaye, little Barry White. You gotta do
Barry
that.
White. I knew that was coming next.
All right, real quick. Wes gives us $2 in the tip jar. Says, "Love the show. Keep up the great work. Subscribe, people." Yes, let's take a quick aside since he brought it up. If you're watching, and we're getting more and more people on the live stream right now as we keep going, and if you haven't yet, after the show or whenever you're done viewing the show, please give this a like. It costs nothing. Wes was generous enough to give us $2. That's awesome. But he just liked the video. Like the video, subscribe to our channel. We're up to 4,270. Lance he's changed his goal to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Lofty goals. Let's see if we can deliver. And we have to deliver good content, and you all have to just subscribe, period. So, okay, let's finish up the Around the Horn segment with myself. I'm going to kind of get away from just the Steelers and talk a little bit about the division. How crazy is it that Andy Dalton is getting benched in Cincinnati. And when you think about it, all 4 teams in the AFC North in week 9, well, yeah, because every team Baltimore is playing. Yeah, they're off their bye. Will have a quarterback that was not the starting quarterback in 2018. So, for instance, Baker Mayfield didn't start. He hasn't played a full season. Lamar Jackson hasn't played a full season as a starter. Mason Rudolph clearly hasn't. And now I can't even tell you the name of the rookie they're starting in Cincinnati. Does anyone know off the top of their head? Exactly. It doesn't matter.
Riley is in there somewhere. Is that a first name or a last name?
I don't know.
I think there's a Riley in there.
He's a 4th
Come on,
rounder.
live chat. Come through for us.
He's a 4th rounder. I know that, and they were high on him. But I don't know.
They were also high on one Mason Rudolph until the Steelers moved ahead of them in the draft.
That's true. But still, how crazy is it that all of a sudden what used to be Roethlisberger, Flacco, and Dalton, and whoever they had a quarterback
in Cleveland.
Yes, is turned into, holy cow. I mean, this is a young quarterback group that's dominating the division. I'm not saying it's great. Ryan Finley is what they're
Finley. I took Ryan and Finley and put them together to make Riley.
Riley, yes. So, I mean, guys, I want to get your take on this. We talk about a quick turnover, and now we all assume that Roethlisberger is going to be back. But at the same time, right now, this AFC North does not have a familiar feel to it from the quarterback position. Brian, what do you think?
It's a whole new world, boys. And let me just tell you this. It's evolution of that quarterback position. We knew we were going to see it. We knew Flacco was getting up there. We knew Roethlisberger would be hanging it up one of these days, even though he hasn't hung it up. He's injured. And we kind of figured that Andy Dalton experiment would fail when these guys moved along with no AJ Green, and that team is almost in tank mode as well. So you can actually see it happening now. And by the way, Cincinnati Bengals, you benched a guy on his birthday. Not cool. You could have done it the day before, the day after, but don't do it on the guy's birthday. Come on now. But no, it's just moving forward, and then in another few years, it might look a whole lot different. You just never know. I mean, it's the NFL, not for long. When you're a quarterback, and that division was blessed to have some long-standing quarterbacks in there. I mean, I don't know how many combined seasons, but I would probably say close to 30 combined seasons. Actually, a little more than that with Roethlisberger and Flacco going about 10 or 11. So yeah, over 30 some combined seasons with those 3 quarterbacks at the helm. That doesn't happen very often. So you're seeing a change, and it's all happening all at once.
Dave, what are your thoughts on the quarterback play in the AFC North?
Well, a couple things. One, we're going to have to wait another week because the Bengals are on bye in week 9, so we won't get that to week 10.
Someone was on bye this week. Okay.
Yeah. This happens all over you think the North is bad? Look at the South. The most tenured quarterback in that division is Deshaun Watson. Because you've got Minshew, you've got Brissett, who wasn't supposed to start this year.
I bet would Brissett
and then they just benched Mariota.
But would Brissett have more starts than
he might have more starts? But I mean, if you're looking at kind of packaging them together, I mean, he did, and then he was back to a backup. That was only due to injury that he had the more starts. But I'm just saying, who's been the starting quarterback for that team the longest? And it's Watson. So it goes in cycles, and it goes in cycles a lot of times, even within the division, because a lot of times those teams are trying to match up against each other, and that's what's going on there. So not always, but that's just how it goes sometimes. So it's a turnover.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think about what, I wrote this article and got, as always, anytime you write an article on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, there's some jackwagon that decides to bash it and say, you're so stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. And I said about how in the 2018 draft class, 3/4 of the division could have drafted their future quarterback in Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, and Mason Rudolph. Now, I didn't go back and look at the article and find this individual. I don't have that much time, but still, here we are. They're all starting heading into week 9. So it's going to be crazy to see how this goes. But that was just my around the horn for this week. So there's a lot of news still coming out of Pittsburgh, everything from Anthony Chickolo being reinstated and taken off of the NFL commissioner's exempt list. We're not going to get into a discussion about whether that is right or wrong, just stating the fact. We have James Conner, who, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, still has not practiced yet this week.
No, he has not practiced this week.
Okay, and we'll get into the full injury report in a second. But Dave, let's get into some Stat Geek stuff.
Okay, well, here it's funny. I started down one path and I stumbled across something else. I'm like, oh, I got to ask the guys this. Let's just look at one thing that's kind of interesting, is that the Steelers have 3 wins, and those teams that they have defeated have a total of 3 wins. The Steelers have 4 losses, and those teams that they have lost to have a total of 4 losses going into this week. Although right now, currently, San Francisco is losing to Arizona, but it's early. So that's just kind of an interesting number thing now, which is interesting because the Colts are kind of on the opposite side of that, because their 2 losses, I mean, they're 5-2, but their 2 losses were to the, I want to get their records right, the 3-4 Chargers and 3-5 Raiders. I might have switched those 2, but that was their losses. So they've lost to losing teams, but yet they've beaten a couple decent teams in the Texans and a pretty decent team with Kansas City when Mahomes was healthy. So they're another one of those teams that you don't know what to think of them, because they're losing to bad teams and beating good teams. And the Steelers, they're just losing to the really good teams and beating the really bad teams and not playing anything between. So we'll see a little bit more this weekend. But I wanted to jump into some history with the Indianapolis Colts and the Steelers, and we're going to do this in the Mike Tomlin era. In the Mike Tomlin era, they have played the Colts 6 times, and their record against the Colts in those 6 games would be, anybody?
6-0.
Anybody? Anyone? Has
he lost 1?
Oh no, Brian.
The Seahawks lost 2 games. Right? Okay.
You completely have no idea where we are right now.
No, the reason I look confused because somebody said I was confused on the live chat, and then I was like,
Brian, turn your live chat off.
Okay, so we'll just answer the question that it was the Steelers' record against the Colts under Mike Tomlin in those 6 games. Are a lot of people in the live chat are saying it correctly. It is.
They lost 1 game, and that was to Peyton Manning back in 2008, 2009.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're going to get to that. They are 5-1, and they've won 5 straight against the Colts. Now, here's what's crazy: in those 6 games, the Colts have started.
You said the Seahawks. You said
I know. You said the Seahawks.
He said
2 losses.
I know the Seahawks.
I thought you were talking about the Steelers. Okay.
Don't try to explain yourself.
The record of the teams that the Steelers played. I was a little confused.
That was so 5 minutes ago.
I can't.
Okay,
it's just like
we gotta bring this back.
I mean,
because Brian might know this one. Jeff, I think might be able to get with this too.
Is it about the Seahawks? 2 losses.
Sometimes I tune you out, Dave.
We will have a slight tie to the Seahawks within this question in a very roundabout way, and that is the Steelers. In the 6 times that they have played the Colts under Mike Tomlin, they have gone against 6 different starting quarterbacks. And in one game, there actually was 2 different quarterbacks within the game that played significant times. So they've won against basically 7 different quarterbacks. Can you name them?
I can.
Okay.
I can.
We'll go back and forth?
We'll go back and forth.
Okay, and I'll check them off here, and I'll tell you which year it was that they played them.
Okay, so I'm going to go Curtis Painter.
You took my blood bomber.
You would be incorrect.
Wait, what?
Curtis Painter is the bonus one. He did not start that game. He was the one who came into that game. So he's one of the 7, but he's not one of the 6. He's the special. You got the bonus question.
Okay.
So Jeff started off with a bonus question. That was in 2011, where Curtis Painter finished the game.
I know.
So he's that 7th
Go ahead,
one.
Brian.
So now we can do the 6
tough one.
starters.
Can you get the tough one?
Can I get the tough one? I'm going to go with Matt Hasselbeck.
That would be in 2015 when the Steelers defeated them 45-10 at Heinz Field.
I'm gonna go Scott Tolzien.
You were going with Scott Tolzien in 2016.
That's the tough one.
Nice. Yeah, that is.
With the 28-7 defeat in Indy.
And he was the one that got knocked out of the game, didn't he?
Did someone else come in with that one? I didn't even look at that one.
I thought
I think Hasselbeck came in.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The rest are easy now.
Yeah. Are they? There's still one more you got to get. Okay, there's 4 left. Brian already mentioned one, so you could do it again if you wanted to.
Yeah, you said the big guy.
The one where they lost.
He has
the
a
Steelers
statue.
lost.
He has a statue outside the
Peyton Manning, but I don't want to.
There, that's Brian's Peyton Manning.
All right, I'll do Andrew Luck.
Then you'll do Andrew. Yeah, Peyton Manning was the one loss. That was 2008. They lost 24-20. That was the last time. And Peyton Manning threw a touchdown with 3 minutes and 4 seconds left to take the lead. Yeah.
Of course, we've got in 2017 Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby. Yeah.
This leaves one, right?
And I'll be honest with you, it was the quarterback who started the game that Curtis Painter had to come in the fourth quarter.
Ah, man, I should know this. What year was it?
This was in 2011. I can't remember which stop this was on this quarterback because he had played for a couple NFC teams of the New York Giants and Carolina Panthers before starting this game for the Colts.
Brian, if you know it, go for it, because I'm drawing a blank. I should know this, and I don't, and I'm disappointed.
I'm surprised the live chat's not going, especially if they're Western Pennsylvania fans.
New York Giants and
this was
Jared Lorenzen.
He might be the only guy to ever play quarterback in the NFL.
That guy just died. He just died
in July. He passed away in July.
He did. Oh man, I liked watching him when he was playing for Kentucky. I tuned in just to watch him because that was crazy. So, oh come on, guys, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I like that guess. Ollie, that's a good one. Come on, guys, from Penn State.
Kerry Collins.
Kerry Collins.
That's right.
Kerry Collins started that game in 2011, and he actually had the lead on the last time he was in the game. Can't remember if he was what it was that knocked him out of the game, but he had the lead.
It was a concussion.
That sounds right. I couldn't find that out for sure. I'm like, Brian will remember or something.
Scary.
So he had the lead. The Steelers tied it. Or no, the Steelers took the lead. The Colts came back and tied. I don't know.
Bottom line, Painter ended up throwing a pick in that game,
and the Steelers kicked the field goal to win at the end. So some pretty good, great, grand, wonderful stuff. So I have other things I could talk about, but I'd rather end it with that because I thought that was kind of interesting.
Matt Hasselbeck was on the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, that was what I said. It could come back to
Seattle
the Seahawks.
2 losses.
There you go.
Two losses.
2.
I was just proud that I got Scott Tolzien. I think that's the one that people would have forgotten about because I think he only has like one start in his whole career.
Yeah.
All right, that was a good stat geek. Other than Brian completely having a brain fart in the middle of it. So
no, that was more than a fart.
Wait. How was it? Who's the quarterback they're going up against this week, Brian? What was that one again?
Seattle Seahawks 2 losses.
Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett. Okay.
You guys going downtown and seen Jacoby Brissett play?
How about that bus in Pittsburgh? Did y'all see that picture of that sinkhole?
Oh yeah.
But did you see the picture that they put Jerome Bettis over the jersey over top of it and Brian Urlacher underneath it getting plowed over? Okay. Do you have the injury report up, Dave? I'd like you to give us an update on that.
I mean, I have it in my brain.
Even the Indianapolis one? Because there's some...
No, I don't have that one. I can bring that one up.
Go ahead and bring that up. And I just want to remind everyone that's listening to, like I said a few minutes ago, like the page. You're going to hear us say this a lot. Like our video. Comment if you like, not just in the live chat, but comment on the video. Share it. Subscribe to our channel. It's really important. And we're getting ready to gear up for a really, really important game. And I'm going to tease this question. And after the injury report, I'm going to have you all answer it. It's the headline and title of this episode. And that is this a prove it game for the Pittsburgh Steelers? You know, what are they going to be proving? on Sunday. And I think they're going to be proving a lot. But first, let's talk about the injuries because that's going to play a significant role in this matchup, especially at the running back position. So, Dave, do you have it up? You ready?
I do. I'll be honest with you. I don't know a lot of these people because they
You know
play
the
in
key names. You know the
yes,
key names.
the key names like T.Y. Hilton, who did not practice today. He was limited yesterday with a calf, but he's one of those guys that he goes and doesn't, because I've had him on a fantasy team before where he's a guy that just doesn't practice all week and then all of a sudden he plays in the game. So Eric Ebron did not practice today with an ankle. That was new to the injury report. But I think the other one is Quentin Nelson, the guard slash center. He was been limited the last two days with both a hip and a neck injury.
Ooh.
So, and the only other person is was a cornerback, did not practice today. What's his name?
Desir, I think.
Yeah, Desir. I don't know if he's I don't know if he's a Joe Hayden or if he's a Justin Lane. I couldn't tell you.
No,
Okay.
Pierre Desir is not bad.
Okay.
Now, I would do want to say that the Steelers injury report, James Conner still has not practiced. Jalen Samuels is a full participant. He's ready to go.
He's good.
All those that were not injury related return. Marquise Pouncey returned to practice. Is anyone else missed today that was expected? I mean, we know Benny Snell had a procedure on his knee. He's out. I'm not sure why they just don't admit it and just say he's out.
Yeah.
But they
Ramon
did that.
Foster.
He's still out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So when he wasn't even limited yesterday with the concussion, that told me that he was not going to be moving through the protocol at all. Because if you're going to start off, if you're starting off the week with not practicing because of a concussion, I don't see where you're going to get through.
Especially even as a limited participant. And the fact that it's on a short week makes it really, really difficult.
Yes. So now, which was interesting, and I noted this in the injury report article that I did, is that Pouncey yesterday was listed as out with his calf because he had the calf injury on Monday night. Mm-hmm. But Wednesday's his day off anyway.
Right.
So what was going to be telling with him is if he came back today or not, which he came back and was full. So that just meant that was more of giving him his day off yesterday than anything.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about the running backs in a second. Brian, let's start with you. This Sunday, 1:00 p.m. Eastern time, Colts, Steelers. Is it a prove it game for you? And what do they have to prove? Can be specific, can be general. What are your thoughts?
Gentlemen, let's take a ride, hop into that DeLorean, and go back to not 1985, but let's go back to 1995. And I know I talk about that 3-4 Steelers start all the time. And I think about it, they had a very tough game that year where they ended up going to the Windy City to take on the Chicago Bears. And it's the only time that they won there, I think, in their history. In that 95 season, but they ended up having to go to overtime. They were losing a good bit of that game. And that was kind of the game that proved that they were back and they could be contenders at 4-4. And they actually went on a huge run after that. And that was a season that included losing to the expansion Jacksonville Jaguars, very early on. So it's, I like to look back then and think about them now. Now, what they're really looking at now is the maturation of Mason Rudolph, which I talked about earlier in the show. And the thing about Mason, if he could pull off this win, and remember, his only wins have been in prime time. So prime time, Mason Rudolph needs to win on Sunday at 1 p.m. And if he could pull off this win, that means that he has seized the starter's role for the season and that this is his team. So that's really what you're looking at here. You don't know who the running back is going to be. If it's Jalen Samuels, if it's James Conner, all you know is that running game has to get going, but it's going to be more on the shoulders of Mason Rudolph. So it's a prove-it game for Mason Rudolph to prove that this team, he could lead this team to beat not defeated teams, not winless teams, because those are the teams that he's beaten so far. So you need a prove-it game, just like that Chicago Bears game back in 1995. This is a huge prove-it game that you could beat a team that is very good and go ahead and move on for the rest of the season. So yes, it is.
What about you, Dave? What are your thoughts?
Yes.
In what way is it a prove-it game?
Sorry. No,
you jag.
Yeah. No, because I don't feel that the Colts are at the level of the other teams, except for maybe the Ravens, because no one can really figure out how good or not good they are, because at times you think that they're not good, they look good, and times you think they're good, they're not. They don't look good. So other than maybe the Ravens, this team is not as good as the other teams that the Steelers have lost to. They're not as good as the Patriots. They're not as good as the Seahawks. They're not as good as the 49ers, in my opinion. So this is that team. People want to criticize, hey, you've only beaten teams that can't beat anybody else. Now you can beat a team that I feel is not to the same level as the other teams that has beaten other people. So this is a prove it game. And if you don't, then we have a better idea what kind of team the Steelers are. And it's not a team that's going to be fighting to get into the playoff hunt. They're going to be a team that's fighting to be a 500 type team. So that's why this is such a prove it game.
Absolutely, it's a prove it game. Like for all the reasons you all said. And I think it's more, I don't really think it has anything to do with, it has a lot to do with the fan base. I do those fan confidence articles every week, and if they win this game, fans are going to be all in, and they're going to think that this team has what it takes, and we'll see if they can do that or not. But you know what? A lot of people, Brian, not to change the subject, have been talking about how BJ Finney is going to be probably starting at guard, and the fact that you have the BJ Finney pants. So like Steeler fan number 74 said, BAD has the Finney pants. Will you be wearing the Finney pants if Finney gets the start? Is that like a tradition? Like if Finney plays, you have to put on the Finney pants? I'm imagining you changing your pants in the middle of a game if he has to go in there.
I've changed jerseys. I have changed everything in the middle of the game. So yeah, you know what? I'll wear the Finney pants. Just ask me. In fact, when Dave and I go live in December, the Finney pants might be a possibility. So
yes. So, I won't be there, so do it, please.
Hey, as long as you guys find a way to feed BAD, the Finney pants might come out. But we'll talk about that. But yeah, I'll put on the Finneys.
Okay, good. I like that. Now here's a question for Dave, specifically for him, from Blue Ice 12.
Oh, you're going to do that, aren't you?
And the question is, I think he meant to write we, and that's or she, should we try to sign Josh Gordon? Dave, you were gonna pen an entire article about this. I'll give you the platform to go and answer this question. Go ahead.
Yes, I was going to pen an entire article where I said, should the Steelers sign Josh Gordon? You can open up that article, and all you would see is the word no. I thought about saying the word next, like Mike Tomlin did in his press conference on Tuesday when they asked him about why he didn't have Duck warming up and Mason looked bad. That was his answer. He said next. So, but no, because, and I mean, I've even had some people question me with this. I was actually told I need to do some research on Twitter today, which I thought was kind of funny. That the Patriots didn't just, I mean, he was warming up to practice and they put him on IR. He was warming up to practice. And the report was they were dropping somebody else who wasn't a practice. And they called and got that person back and put Gordon on IR. This is not something that you just do under a normal circumstance. And I know that there were rumors out there that they found something with him or on him or with his stuff or things of that nature. I don't know. None of that's confirmed, but something isn't quite right there. And then people were saying, oh, well, come on. Someone was trying to claim he would be the number one receiver for the Steelers. And I'm like, no. And then I'm like, why would the Patriots get rid of him? Oh, well, they had 7 people and it was getting really crowded. I'm like, so you're telling me the guy that can't be the 6th wide receiver for the Patriots is our answer to be a number one receiver for the Steelers? Not going to happen. Not it. There's so much more to the story. If a team that's short on wide receivers and had to go out and trade for one is ready to let one go, that there's a red flag there that I would just prefer that the Steelers stay away from. If they really don't care about that, why not bring back Martavis Bryant?
Now, Brian had a Seattle Seahawks 2 losses look on his face there. So did you disagree, Brian? Do you think they should give Josh Gordon a flyer?
I'm signing him. Yeah. Yeah. What the hell not?
Please tell me it's just for some website traffic.
No. You know what? Right now, I'm signing this guy. You guys want rid of Moncrief so bad. You hate Switzer. Everybody, I'm like, you don't want to see Holton in there. Gosh, this team has 3 receivers, and one of them we're not sure about right now because James Washington has done nothing. So really, you have 2.5 receivers. Get him cheap. If you can get him for the veteran minimum, bring him in. If he screws up, all right, we'll see ya. But bring the guy in.
It's
you
not
can.
the veteran minimum, because the one thing that the Patriots did that was very calculated was the reason they put him on IR rather than just release him is they didn't want him to be able to go anywhere. So they put him on IR, and then they released him after the trade deadline, where all players have to go through waivers.
How much does he cost, though? Is he expensive?
About $1 million for the rest of the season.
How much?
About $1 million.
$1 million?
For half a season.
Chump change. Come on. Why not? Why the hell not? Seriously.
Who did I say?
See what you can do.
I stole this quote before, where someone said this when it was actually someone asked a question about Mr. Third and Fifth, and they're like, "You just spent an entire offseason cutting the tumors out of your body. Why would you knowingly want to plant one back in?"
How do you know he's a tumor?
Why is he not in New England? Why is he not in New England?
Problem. He's not no one.
But why is he
said?
But why would they get rid of him? Why would they get rid of arguably their best receiver if there wasn't something more? That's why I'm not doing anything in that regard.
Because they're the Patriots and they do different things than everybody else.
They kept Mr. Third and Fifth after everything else going on, where any other team.
He played for 1 week,
and he shouldn't have played that week.
They waited until they found out. It got worse. They're like, all right, it's not worth it. You know what? I mean, why not?
I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just saying that there's more than just adding. I mean, if you want that good, go back to Mr. Third and Fifth.
You want to open up the box? Let's open up the box. Let's do it.
Let's get Dev. Let's get T.O. Let's get Ocho Cinco. Let's get them all.
Was Le'Veon Bell a locker room problem? Was he a cancer? No. So we're cutting out. We're talking about cutting out all the cancers.
Well, he had a.
You're saying he was a cancer?
Absolutely.
You're saying he was a
his
cancer?
Attitude.
His actions were a distraction, which caused a locker room problem.
I get
not his person, not necessarily his personality.
No, and in that respect, Antonio Brown wasn't a locker room problem, but his antics caused distractions.
No, he was a lot more of a locker room problem than anybody ever knew.
Those players love that guy. They loved him.
No, he
Antonio
caused problems.
Brown.
They were glad to see him go because he caused a lot of problems that nobody was talking about. That's the thing. Yeah, he was a problem.
They either, regardless, both of those players caused distractions, whether it was Le'Veon Bell sitting out an entire year or the previous year sitting out the preseason and training camp, and then Antonio Brown and his ridiculous antics, they all caused distractions. Call Lima Swede. Yes. So I get, here's what I don't think this team needs right now is more attention to that type of stuff. Does that make sense? Like for me, Josh Gordon could be a potential player. Josh Gordon is talented. No one's saying he isn't. My thing is, though, is it's one of those deals where if you bring in Josh Gordon, it would be very similar to not so, well, I guess maybe to the Mike when they signed Mike Vick. And it's not that Mike Vick was doing anything currently. It's what he had done in the past. So Josh Gordon and all his missteps with the NFL and being suspended indefinitely and then being reinstated and all that stuff. So I don't know. There you go. It's
everybody is goody when it comes to bringing a guy like that in and giving him a chance. But the Patriots give guys like that a chance every once in a while. It didn't work. It might have not worked here, but everyone said, "Oh, Pittsburgh can't bring in a guy like Mike Vick. The Rooneys will never do it." Ha! They did. Ha! So that's the thing. These guys are commodities. This is a business. If they want to go ahead and bring something to improve their business, they're going to do it. And if they feel they can bring in improve their business, why not bring the guy in? If they don't think that he's valuable, seriously, he's a better talent right now than Dante Moncrief and Ryan Switzer. They don't have receivers.
I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing.
So why not
talent? I'm just saying That's not what this team needs.
It's
all about talent, then everyone's going to argue why is it Mason Rudolph and not Colin Kaepernick? That's what people were screaming in the live chat for weeks. I'm not necessarily live chat or in the comments, because do you want something outside of football to be the focus of what you're doing? So I don't want to bring in a player like that.
That's a completely different story.
Mm-hmm.
Kaepernick's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, we're not getting into that.
No, we're not.
West puts $2 in the tip jar, and he says, is it possible we sign a CJ Anderson or maybe even a wide receiver as a free agent? Guys, what are your thoughts?
I'm signing everybody.
Yeah, just open up the checkbook. Let's go all the way to the cap. Screw it.
It depends. I mean, I don't think James Conner is going to be out long, but CJ Anderson would have been a good guy to bring in if Jalen Samuels wasn't coming back. You saw what he did last year when he came in for the Rams. In fact, he ended up being the best running back on the Rams at Super Bowl time, and they were riding him because Gurley wasn't right.
I feel like the show is just taking a sharp right-hand turn.
What? What'd I do?
Yeah, I didn't start the fight. I read the question. That's all.
It's not even a fight. This is nature bantering.
I was clicking off of it, Jeff.
All right, let's change.
Hey, let's talk about some fantasy football. So,
fantasy football.
I'm sitting Josh Gordon because no one will sign him.
Brian's not playing anybody.
Well, here's the question. I bet you anything. I mean, what? The Steelers are 12th right now in the waiver order. You don't think that I would even doubt that he would get that far down to the Steelers, because some of those other teams that really don't care might just go for it.
I disagree. Why would they go for him? You would think.
But then why should the Steelers?
Because the Steelers are trying to be a contender right now.
Oh my gosh! Can we talk about something else? For crying out loud, they're probably not.
Started it, Jeff.
Stop it! I don't care.
Jeff started it.
No, stop. My kids are in bed. I don't have to deal with this longer. Okay, I deal with kids all day.
You like Dave better than you like me.
Middle schoolers during the day, and then my kids at night. Stop it! All right, just knock it out. All right, let's talk about some freaking fantasy football. How about that? Dave, who are you starting this week?
Oh, okay. We are going to talk about fantasy football.
Yeah,
who am I starting this week? I am going to say what the Steelers need to do more than anything, and Lance Williams would get behind me that this is something that really needs to happen. So let's start him in hopes that the Steelers listen to Lance. And let's go with Vance McDonald, because they got to get these tight ends involved.
Yeah, that's a bold move. I've been thinking they're going to do it for weeks now, and they haven't done it.
Which has made him cheap.
Absolutely, yeah, but still. All right, Brian, who are you starting?
I'm not sure, because if you ask Michael DeTore, I don't know football. He's mentioned that 2 or 3 times on the live chat. So I'm just going to say, I'm not sure who to start. I mean,
oh my gosh, just say who you're starting.
I'm starting Deontay Johnson this week. He's hot.
I'm going to go on a limb and say start Jalen Samuels, because he's going to be the only experienced running back that's going to be 100% healthy. And so even though James Conner, I still am holding out hope that he'll be limited on Friday and that he'll be a game time decision. Even if he does play, I don't think that they're going to give him his full complement of carries. I expect them to use Jalen Samuels early and often. Therefore, I say play J Sam to maybe get you some two-way points as receiving and running. Dave, who are you benching this week?
Who am I benching? I am going to continue to bench James Washington, because he's not getting the receiver stats. He's too busy making killer blocks downfield on touchdowns. So I like him, but I don't like him from a fantasy standpoint.
All right. BAD.
I'm going to go ahead and bench Vance McDonald and basically any tight end, because it seems like they're kind of ignoring that position right now. And it's funny because Mason Rudolph does not really is not relying on that tight end as much with his new penchant for going downfield. So there you go.
I don't think they're putting the tight ends in the right spots on their routes. So, but I'd like to see that package that I talked about start using the tight end a little bit. But mine's more of a wishful thinking than what I think will actually happen.
So who you said, Dave? You said James Washington.
I
Right?
said James Washington.
I was kind of leaning towards him. I guess instead of let me ask you guys this. I'm gonna divert the question and say, would you start the Steelers defense this Sunday?
You know what? I like where you're going with this, Jeff, because I was actually going to say don't start them, but then I went on my little tight end thing. But, that's a kind of a dangerous start. But if you look at it, you have T.Y. Hilton running crazy. Marlon Mack is a really good running back, and you've seen what they've done. But if you look at them just as far as team offensive stats, they're middle of the road. So, you could possibly start them. But if you sat them, it's not a big deal either. I'm on the fence.
What about you, Dave? Would you start the Steelers defense? They've been a turnover machine.
Yeah, that's the thing. They've been the turnover machine. And you also have to look, other than just losing Stephon Tuitt to IR, they don't have any guys that are out injury-wise. So I kind of like that. I mean, I was going to ask you guys, has Joe Hayden become the weakest link of the secondary, where that's who the teams have to look to throw at? I
brought that up,
and that was our strength last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on. I mean, the secondary, not that Terrell Edmonds is tearing up, but him with Fitzpatrick is working out to be a pretty good combination with stuff. So, I don't know. I mean, I'd be tempted to, honestly, the way they've been getting the turnovers, if you have the Steelers, if you're not in the daily fantasy thing, because I know some of these, whether you use it or not, so not all of them even use a defense. But if you're in like a traditional fantasy league and you have the Steelers, you'd have no reason to take them out of your lineup right now.
Yeah, I actually posed that question to Lance last night about Steven Nelson and Joe Hayden. And it seems like right now, or it seemed like at least on Monday night, they were targeting Hayden early and often.
Yeah.
But they seemed to rectify that, and they kind of changed up their scheme a little bit. So there you have that. All right, so there's our fantasy fix for the night. Hopefully you all are taking notes. I'm slowly climbing my way back up the standings. Still not in the money. Not in our league. I got some money in another league again, but still not in our flipping league. So we'll see how this Sunday plays out, we should say. Let's get to prediction time. I'm curious about your predictions. I know we normally do X factors and stuff like that. I feel like the Josh Gordon sentiment just took too much steam out of that. So, guys, what are your predictions? I gave mine last night. I'll say it here at the end, but we'll start with Dave. Dave, how do you see this game?
We got to look at the lines.
What the heck, Dave?
Nope. You got to sig with me. I said a flip, flop, a flip it, a flip it, a flip, flip, flop. You don't stop. Yeah, it's flipped again. It's flipped and flipped and flipped and flipped. Now it is right now. Colts by point.
I saw that on the ticker on ESPN. Yep. And I told my dad, I'm like, wait a second, what? Dave's article said it was +1. So either he completely flubbed that thing or it flipped again. And so you said it flipped again. I believe you.
Yeah. So it keeps flipping. I mean, which makes it tough when I'm putting these articles out that has it, and it keeps going back and forth. Now the over/under stayed pretty steady. I think it might have started Monday before the Steelers played at 43.5, but it went to 42.5 after the game, and it stayed there. So that's the over/under.
That's crazy. Is that I've been trying to take a look at these, and Dave, you always ask over/under for our picks every Saturday, and I actually thought to myself that 44 would be a good line. And so you said it's 43. That's pretty interesting. I'm getting better at this stuff. All right, so what's your prediction, Dave?
My prediction, see, I still like to think about, like last week, my prediction, do you guys realize I was really close on the score? I said 27-17. It was 27-14. There was a lady who predicted that score.
Yeah, I saw that. That was
at the stadium with me. With it, it was a very short live time at the stadium because I did it too late because I kept looking for Russ. I was trying to find Russ. Russ was at the game, and I was really hoping to get Russ, and I didn't. But you know what? I'm going to yield to somebody wiser than me. And I think Tony Defio just threw it out there, so I'll go with his. Steelers 24, Colts 21.
Very good. Brian Anthony Davis, prediction time.
Wow, I didn't know Tony D was a fan.
He's a team player.
Yeah, I guess I'm the only one that's
Unlike
not.
some people. Sorry.
That's all right.
Brian Davis.
It rhymes with Schmei and Schmavis. Yeah, Schmei and Smithity. Hey, let's go Steelers. Let's go 26-24 on this. I don't think it's.
He comes up with the most random numbers.
26?
Yeah, 26. It's a lot of field goals. I don't expect. I think Boz has a big day kicking.
So you
field goals and 2 touchdowns.
You should say start Chris Boswell then.
Yeah.
I could have, but I wanted to go Deontay Johnson just to poke at Dave, but I didn't even. I people think I'm mad at Dave, and I'm not, so I decided to lay off that.
He's not mad at him. They just hate each other. That's all.
We're buddies. We hang out more than you do with us. He at least hangs out with me. You don't, Jeff. So no, 26-24.
You're not hearing any complaints from me. I'm just,
actually, Jeff's been at my house, and so on numerous occasions. So he actually likes me too. But 26-24, and the reason being is I actually think that they're going to come down and Boz is going to win it. They're going to be down 24-23, and Boz wins it as time expires.
All right. Ron, who is a regular listener, he even posted my prediction before I could even say it because I said it last night. I said that the Steelers win this game 24-20. I think that they absolutely are really due for this game. I think they're ready for this game. And do you guys agree with that? Do you think they're ready for this game? They've been through some ups and downs this year, from preseason stuff like the loss of Darryl Drake to the loss of Ben Roethlisberger. Do you feel like this team is ready, Brian?
Yeah, I really do. It's this is the turning point. I know they've won 2 games in a row, but this is the one that sets it on course.
Dave?
Yeah, it's what happened against Miami was almost exactly as I expected. I said the Steelers are going to come out really slow. They always do after the bye. I talked about it. I gave the numbers behind it. I say they haven't scored a touchdown in the first quarter of a game coming out of the bye since 2008, which is ridiculous to say, but I keep saying it because I want to sound smart. But I didn't expect the defense to come out as bad as they did. I didn't expect for it to be coming back.
Did they come out bad? That first turnover basically set up Miami in the red zone. I'm not expecting them to stop them every time.
But you got to hold them to that field goal. You got to the second touchdown.
That was bad.
That was bad. And I mean, that just looked like a lack of effort on finishing a play. The boo birds come out. It was crazy. And people, if it was any other team other than the Dolphins, do the Steelers come back? We'll never know because they were playing the Dolphins, and that's what happened. But now you're coming back. Mason Rudolph looked like a completely different quarterback in the second half. He just looked so uncomfortable and throwing the ball behind guys through the entire first half that he finally just settled in. And it all came down to that when the Steelers were pinned back at the 6, not on the interception, but when they were pinned back on the 6 and lost 2 yards on 2 plays, and they had a 3rd and 12 at their own 4, and he completed the pass to the sideline. I'm pretty sure that one was to Juju, but I can't remember because I haven't rewatched the game.
Was it a comeback route or down the sideline?
It was on the sidelines. If you're watching on TV, it would have been on the far sideline because it was on my left. Yes. So that's what started. That's where you saw a change in him. And it just grew and grew and grew and grew. I think they can roll that into next week. And the Colts, every single game that they've been in has been a 7-point game or less. Most of them have been less. They've always been close games. So the Steelers need to show, with their defense being the key, that they can get that stop and win a close game.
All right. Seattle has 2 losses. All right.
Seattle does have 2 losses.
Yeah, so does the Colts.
So do the Colts.
Exactly. But we're all going to say that the Colts are going to have 3 after.
Okay, real quick, guys. Cree brings this up. I was going to bring it up as well. The over-under is 2 in terms of sacks. Are you taking the over or the under? Let's remember, I want to say the Colts are like the best pass-protecting team in the NFL with a great offensive line. 2, over-under. Brian?
Over. They gave up 4 last week.
Okay. Dave?
Push.
Okay. Over under on turnovers. 2. Brian. Takeaways. Let me say takeaways. Takeaways.
I kind of like the push there, but let's go under.
Dave?
I'm going to say under. I'm going to say 1.
Okay. I was going to say under. I'll say 1. 1 for sure. Over under Mason Rudolph touchdowns. 2.5.
Okay.
Give me the hook. Give me the hook.
Brian, go ahead.
I'm going under because it seems like he gets 2 every week.
Who's complaining about that? I mean,
No, I don't
just
think he's going over.
All right, Dave.
Let's go with 2.
Over 3. He gets 3 this
Going
game.
3. All right.
Yeah, I think he gets 3 this game. And we'll do the last one. Over under Steelers giveaways. 1. Brian.
Over the giveaway 2.
Dave.
I'm gonna go. What I don't originally think. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna say the reason they win this game is because they don't turn it over at all.
I'm going to agree with Dave. I think this is an under game. I think every year Mike Tomlin has a game where the team just comes out and plays super clean, not a lot of penalties, not a lot of turnovers. I think this might be that game. And they always play well against the Colts at Heinz Field. I mean, when was the last time they lost to the Colts at Heinz Field? It was Peyton Manning, right? Dave?
Last time they lost to the Colts at all was Peyton Manning.
Barely.
Well, right,
barely,
but that was at Heinz Field,
Yep.
correct?
Yes, that was at Heinz Field.
Yeah. So they play this team tough, and so I think that this is going to be Ollie says, what the hell is a push? A push basically means if there's no hook involved, the hook is the 0.5 or the half point. And so a push is if the over-under is a 2, you're saying that it's going to be 2. That's the push. So you would have no winning money on either side of the over-under.
Like Knapp said, it's a tie.
Yep, it's a tie. Very good. So, all right, we have, according to my clock, we have about 3 minutes left. I'd be glad to answer some rapid-fire questions for the show. Let me put that in there and see if we get any questions quickly, and we'll answer as many as we can. Brian, stay with us here. There's only 3 minutes left, so don't think about those Seahawks and how many losses they have. We got to focus. Focus on the show.
He's trying to. He's going to be up all night thinking about that waiver claim if that's going to come through by 4:00 tomorrow.
All right, I'm trying to find some questions.
I'm trying to poke the bear.
I know.
Yeah, I'm just smiling, Brian, because I beat all you guys in the standings in fantasy, and you know it.
All right, here we go. Steeler fan 74 says, does Mason Rudolph need to be more active in the pocket, not just standing still? Brian, I don't think you're qualified to answer this. You don't know football, so.
Actually, I think he moves out. He's been moving around just fine when he needs to, especially when he got knocked out of the Baltimore game. He made that play happen by moving around and getting that ball downfield to J-Wash.
Dave?
J-Wash, I like that.
J-Wash.
I'm going to say that was part of his problem in the first half. Now, I haven't gone back to seeing it all on TV, but in stadium, it seemed like he was just, and he had a lot of time, but he wasn't really moving and giving them a point to focus in on. And that's one of the things he improved on as he went. So just don't do a repeat of the first half of Miami in anything that happens. Pretty much erase first half of Miami from your brain.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and answer Jamal's question. I'm sorry, that's Ali moved up. Jamal says, should Duck start this game? Next. All right. Wes says, some media says the O-line has been a strength. Am I crazy to think that's not completely true? Filer completely whiffed on a block last game. Pouncey's been off. So is Foster. Guys, thoughts on the offensive line? Have they been living up to the hype, or do they have leaving something to be desired? Brian, we'll start with you.
The tooth is getting longer, and the stud and the answer is in Denver. Mike Munchak.
Dave?
They are one of the best pass blocking offensive lines in the NFL this year. So you have to look at it that way too. People were focusing on the run, but I feel that they are improving in the run because they were actually be allowed to line up and fire off the ball, which helped the running game get going on Monday. And they are still doing a great job in pass protection. So They're not perfect, but they are better than what some people realize.
I want to see David DeCastro get pissed off again. He just, I don't know, maybe it's because he has kids now or something, but he just seems like he's all calm and relaxed all the time. They interview him in the locker room. He's just kind of like, man, yeah, it is what it is, blah, blah, blah. Ben's not playing. Come on, man.
Just like you, Jeff.
Where's that Vontaze perfect fire that we used to see from David DeCastro? Like, that's what I want to see. He needs to get these guys going. I think he's the leader of that group. He just needs to step it up. All right, Kevin DeBoss asks, is this a must-win game if the Steelers want to make the playoffs, Dave?
I'm going to say they've got to win one of the next two.
This one's more important as an AFC game.
I think it is too, but
it's not you think. It is more important.
Yeah. Oh, yes. But absolutely, when it comes to that. So I would say this one is the one that you want to win more than the two. But if you lose this game, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility with everything. But if you lose the next two, it is. So if this one is close to a must-win game, which could make the next one even more of one. I know that's a roundabout answer, so we'll just round it up and say yes, it is.
Brian?
Yes. Wild card implications. Got to do it.
All right, so this person has asked this question at least 10 times during the show. So I figured we owe it to him to answer it. He says, where is the screen package? Well, let me say that in my time watching the Steelers have been one of the worst screen teams I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'm not sure why. They have athletic linemen. They have decent running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield. Yet for some reason, they are awful at running screens. Dave, any reason why?
I think they don't disguise them well enough. I think you've got to sell. I mean, a screen isn't part of what a screen is actually selling your opponent that that's not what you're doing. So you're trying to set up the guys and make them realize that you're just getting beat. And honestly, sometimes for really good pass protection teams, screens are difficult because when a guy is used to getting blocked well, and then all of a sudden, hey, I beat my guy really easy. Wait, something's wrong. If you know what I mean, when it comes to a screen, because it's all about getting the lineman in the right position. All I have to say is if you're talking about the bubble screen, let's just leave that one out for now. I don't want to see that one make too much of a comeback because just of how much it was overused in years past. But that's what goes on with the screen game. I would almost rather just see a nice dump off swing pass to the running back just to get them out in space and, not necessarily having to get the lineman out there to block.
Brian, screen game thoughts?
Seattle's good at the screen. I will tell you that. But no, you know what? They really, if they get their running game going, they don't focus on that as much. And you saw it with 150 total yards from James Conner the other day, only 5 from passes, so 5 receiving yards. So when they got it going, they didn't need it as much. So yeah, I don't really see them having to rely on it if they can get that running game back.
All right. George puts $5 in the tip jar. He says, do you think Joe Hayden he's referring to, will be moved to safety at some point to prolong his career? Woodson did it. Not everyone can do it. Carnell Lake did it. Rod Woodson did it. Brian, what are your thoughts on the Joe Hayden to safety possibility?
You know what? I think that's a possibility, but I don't see it really happening in Pittsburgh, so I'll say no.
Oh, he took my answer because I'm like, it would have to be in more than 3 years from now if it's in Pittsburgh because he's not going to move back there with the 2 safeties they have.
Yeah, I agree. So here we go. Pittsburgh Steelers, Indianapolis Colts, Week 9, Heinz Field, 1 o'clock. It's their second of 3 straight home games. Dave, you're not going to this one. When's the next home game you'll be going to? Is it Buffalo?
No, I will be going to the Rams game. I was originally supposed to go to this game and the Buffalo game. And then when my father asked to go to a game, which was great. I mean, this was a really good thing for me because I'd gone to with my dad for a couple of years. The last game he was at was we went to see the Steelers play Jacksonville twice in the same season because we were there for both of those horrendous games. So it was great to get a nice game with my dad. Didn't know if he'd ever get to go to a game again. We did. It was nice. Therefore, I didn't want to go twice in 6 days. So I switched out which game, so I'm not going again till the Rams.
I gotcha. Okay. Wes has asked us last question. Wes has giving us some money tonight will be nice. Do you think we can win the next 8 games? So let's rattle off those games, shall we? Colts, Rams, Browns, Bengals, Browns, Bills, Jets, Ravens. In that order. 8 games. Can they win them all, Brian?
They can win them all. I actually have them going 6-2.
Who are the 2 losses? Just out of curiosity.
You know what? I still have them losing to the Rams, and I have them losing to the Ravens at the end of the season.
Okay, Dave.
Yeah, the question is, can they? I think they can and will be in every single one of those games, which tells me that they can win them. But with being such a young team, especially with some of their young weapons on offense, you don't always necessarily pull out all of those games. Luckily, Boz is not broken anymore from what we can see, so we don't have to worry about that part of it. But I think they can, but I think they're going to drop at least one along the way no matter what, even if they're in every game. So
I missed the Cardinals game. Where was that?
There's actually 9 games left.
Yeah, I was going to say, where did I miss the Cardinals game?
The Cardinals game is like December 8th or 10th.
Yes, it's right before the Bills.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
What?
So I'm just trying to I'm reading the live chat and then my mind just got a little chaotic there. So, okay. That's a show for tonight. We appreciate your time, guys. We appreciate all the people in the live chat. Make sure that you check us out next week for another episode of the Steelers Preview, where we'll talk about the upcoming game. At that point, for the Rams, Brian Anthony Davis will update you on the Seattle Seahawks record, and we will be good to go for another week. Now, I do remind you that next week we're going to finally be back to a regular week. So Sunday, tomorrow, Friday is Lance's. Yeah, I said it. Saturday, Brian, aren't you the one that's up for burning question this week?
I'm burning.
All right. So be there for the burning question on Saturday. Sunday will be the post game with myself and Lance. I think if he can make it, I'll have to make sure. And then we're back to the Steelers hangover on Monday, Dave on Tuesday, and so on and so forth. So remember, like these videos, comment if you can. If you don't, you've watched on YouTube, you're listening on audio platform, like and subscribe to all our stuff and wherever you watch or listen, and we really appreciate it. So make sure you do all that. And as Lance always says, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Steelers Preview.